Welcome. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. As I mentioned, I work on base and I'm in charge of Falcon Hill and some other projects there. I'm a civil engineer by profession, so the design and construction of the buildings is of great interest to me, but I've also done a lot of the economic development piece of Falcon Hill, so have some background there as well. My goal today is really to provide you the information that you're interested in. I have a number of slides and I have a lot of information that I can talk about, but really what I want to do is answer your questions. So as I go through the briefing, if you have a question, I'm open to just interrupt me. Just interrupt me and let's talk about what you want to talk about today. So first of all, let me give you a little bit of background about the base. If you're not very familiar with Hill Air Force Base, it's located in Davis and Weber counties. Most of it's in Davis County. It covers about 6,800 acres. It's the largest single-site employer in the state of Utah. There's about 23,500 people go there every day to work. And as you can see, it's mostly civilians like me, about 66%. There's another 23% contractors and about 11% are military in uniform. The base, one of the major missions of the base is munitions storage. Most of the acreage, about 3,800 acres of this 6,800 is large storage area with munitions bunkers. They store most of the munitions for the Air Force in those bunkers. So that's the major mission on base other than depot maintenance, which is the other. There's 305 facilities, about 4.5 million square feet of production space where we do maintenance on a number of aircraft and the intercontinental ballistic missiles. So pretty large industrial area, one of the largest in the state. This is the topic on everybody's mind, so I figured I may as well address it first, and that's what you've been hearing in the newspaper, the restructuring of Air Force Materiel Command. Hill is one of 12 bases in the command, and just about 2 weeks ago, they announced a major restructuring within the command. So what's happening is if you looked at the command a year ago, or even today, there's 12 different commanders that report to the AFMC commander, who's a 4-star general. So he has 12 direct reports to him. Well, that's too many. It's hard for him to manage that many people and all those different activities that come in. So what he's trying to do is consolidate that down to 5 people that will report directly to him. If you look at these 5 boxes, this is the new structure of our command. And how that affects Hill is mainly here at the Air Force Sustainment Center. What happened before is we had the Ogden Air Logistics Center, which is the 2-star commander at Hill. And he would report directly to Air Force Materiel Command, the 4-star general. Under this new structure that's going to be effective next October, there'll be an Air Force Sustainment Center located in Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. What will happen is the current 3 major depots, which are Hill, Robbins, and Tinker, will report to this Sustainment Center commander, and then he will be the direct report to the AFMC commander. Again, down here on the bottom, you have the 75th Air Base Wing, which is the mayor of the base, so to speak, the commander there who runs the base. They will report directly to this person as opposed to the ALC commander, which is how it works today. So to give you a little more idea of what will happen specifically at Hill, that's a big eye chart, I know, and it won't mean much to you, but I'll talk about it in real general terms. Basically what's happening is this restructuring with the Air Force Sustainment Center. The base, this 75th Air Base Wing, which is the Hill Air Force Base mayor, will report directly to them. The Ogden Air Logistics Complex, which is all the maintenance functions on base, will report directly to them. So basically, for all practical purposes, the change that's happening is our center commander now is being replaced by a complex commander, and they will report to a 3-star general instead of the 4-star general here. The net effect of that is that we'll lose 261 jobs on base. Well, if you look back on my introductory slide, there's about 23,500 people, so it's about 1%. Well, our normal attrition rate on base is 3 to 5% between retirements and people that go find other jobs. So the number of positions that we're losing is about 4 months' worth of attrition. So the impact on the base is really not that major. The other thing I want to make clear is all of these activities that go on base with supply depot management, with contract management, with a lot of the money that comes into the base all remain. There's no move right now to take them and put them anywhere else. There's no relocation effort. There's no consolidation effort there. All of those functions will remain on base. And basically what's happening is overhead's being cut. As we all know, our government has to get more efficient. We have to cut somewhere. And the DoD has to take its share. So in the course of the Air Force trying to look for efficiencies, look for a way to cut, we're going to cut about 261 people out of the base. That'll happen next October. And for all intents and purposes, not a whole lot's going to change. Basically what they've done is they've taken the management structure off of all of the bases. So if you look across the command, it's about 1,100 people total. And the reason that may seem disparate is if you look at these three, even though there's 12 bases within the command, these three make up the majority, and they all take about 250 each, and then there's a scattering at the rest of the smaller bases. And basically, as far as I understand it, and quite frankly, a lot of the details of this have not been finalized, just the generalized plan is in place. This is currently the 309th Commander. So the 309th Commander, which the 309th is the maintenance wing on base, it's about 9,000 of the people that work there. And so that will be this person. So, all right, with that, let's jump into Falcon Hill. Let's talk about enhanced use leasing. Enhanced use leasing is an interesting concept for the government. It was legislation that was passed in 2002 that allowed DoD and other government agencies to take property that wasn't being used effectively and turn it over to a private developer in order to get some gain back for the government. Well, that's a novel concept for us. We are not in the business to make money. So that really throws a lot of people off. So what's happened with this concept is we've taken about 500 acres on base and we looked to turn that over to a developer in hopes of getting some gain back from that. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that all worked. So basically, under the rules of enhanced use leasing, we can take our property that's underutilized and lease it for up to 50 years. Well, you in the business community understand that that basically is the same as fee title to property, so the developer can come in and get financing on buildings, can do the things he needs to do to make the development successful. In exchange, the Air Force receives some kind of payment. That can either be services or cash. As a base, we don't want cash. And the reason for that is 50% of it automatically goes to the Treasury and we never see it again. So we want services. So what we've done is structured our deal so that that developer will come in, he will build buildings for himself, we will share in the revenue from that, and he will build buildings for the base that we don't have to pay for with tax dollars. In May of 2007, we stood up an 8-person office on base. We're the only one in the Air Force that have an office to manage this kind of project. That's the office that I lead. It's now expanded to 12 people because we've picked up energy production. We're also looking at the UTTR and on base what we can do to produce renewable energy and other energy projects that can make us energy secure. Well, why did we go to enhanced use lease? Well, as you are familiar with the base at all, the base was built basically in the 1940s as a bomb depot to support World War II. If you drive by on Clearfield on 650 North, you can see all those warehouses that were used to store bombs. Well, all those warehouses have now been turned into office buildings. There's about 6,000 people that work in those buildings, and quite frankly, they're not very nice. We don't have the money to upkeep them. They're cold in the winter, they're hot in the summer, and they weren't designed for parking. They were designed to have a single truck pull up to the loading dock, get loaded, and drive away. So it's really not a good structure for an office environment. We've been trying through the military construction process to fix that for about 15 years. And under the current budget environment, we're just not going to get there. There's just not money for office buildings. All of the MILCON, military construction money, it goes in to build new buildings for the F-22 and the F-35 and the new weapons platforms that are coming online. So what we did is we realized we had to find another way to fix that problem. And under the military construction, that would cost us about $400 million to replace those buildings. So what we did is we went out and looked for a developer. We structured the deal with a 50-year lease and said, look, we want the development community to come in and provide us options on how we can fix our space problem as well as be a viable project for you. And through that competitive process, we selected a company called Sunset Ridge Development Partners. And that's a consortium between Woodbury Corporation in Salt Lake, which if you're familiar, they own about 1/3 of the commercial real estate on the Wasatch Front, and Hunt Development Corporation out of Texas, which is a large military construction firm. Those two entities came in and said, we think we can help you. We can devise a deal where we'll take the acreage, we'll build a development, and we'll fix your $400 million housing or office building problem. So they came in, we signed the deal, they came up with Falcon Hill National Aerospace Research Park. Our goal with this project is to create a research park. It's an office development, high-tech manufacturing. What we want to do is build synergy between the base and those companies that work in those areas that will come, do business with the base, do business in Utah, bring tax revenue to the state, bring jobs to the state. And really that's our goal with the development. One of the things that I wanted to make clear is we are not competing, we are not looking to compete with the communities. We do not have big box retail, we do not have housing. We will only have the services that will support the development. So what will happen is when they come in and build an office building, at some point in time they'll build a strip mall that will have a place, place to eat lunch, maybe a place to get insurance, a place to do dry cleaning, things that people in an office environment would go do during their lunchtime. We're not trying to compete with the local communities in any way. If you look at the development as a whole, this is the I-15 frontage of the base. This is the 650 north exit in Clearfield. This is the 5600 south exit in Wray. Our development goes from the Defense Reutilization Marketing Office here on the south all the way up to the museum on the north. And it's this shaded area. As you can see, there's a number of cutouts. Those are areas that are not included in the development because they're assets on the base that were just too expensive to move. So this comprises about 3.5 miles of freeway frontage, and it covers, like I said, about 550 acres. It does include the rail shop. We've been working with the Army for about 6 years on a relocation plan. They have the same problem that everybody else in DOD has, and that's it takes money to move them. So we've been working through that. Right now that's at the Secretary of Army and Secretary of the Air Force level. They're trying to work out a deal. The good news for us is our development is working around the interchanges at this point, so we won't get to where the rail shop is for a little while. And so we have some time to help fix that problem. Well, here's the benefits of the deal. Basically, we signed a 50-year lease on 500 acres. And what was very important to our developer was that it's built out on market demand. In other words, there's no defined construction schedule. Well, that's very important to him. We signed the deal in 2008. If we had required him to build a building a year, he'd have 3 empty buildings right now, which is not very good economics. So that's a really good function of the deal, which has been very good in this recent economy. The second thing is basically we get new utility infrastructure and facilities at no cost to the Air Force, which is the big deal for the base. We have buildings that were built in the 1940s. Well, guess what? The sewers and the water lines and all of those were built in the 1940s too, so they're not in very good shape. As the developer comes in and replaces those buildings, he'll put in new utilities, and that's a big bonus for us. The last thing is we get a lease revenue sharing arrangement, which provides a long-term income stream for the Air Force. The way the deal is structured, when he builds a building, we share in the rent revenue from that building for the whole life of the project. So basically, as you can imagine, as he builds one building and we get a little bit, and he builds 2 buildings, we get a little bit. In 25 years, when he's built 50 buildings, we get quite a bit. And that's going to provide a revenue stream that we can use to rebuild our facilities on base without using federal tax dollars. I want to talk about the state and what the great things they've done for us. The state of Utah has really helped this project a lot. One of the things they did in 2006, they came to us and said, basically, how can we help you? And we said at that point in time, our major concern was we border 2 counties and 4 cities, which have been great. All of them have been very helpful. But if you can imagine with the development of this size, we didn't want different city ordinances. We didn't want to have to worry about boundary lines. The other thing that we were very concerned about was annexation. If you take 500 acres of new development that's been federal property for 75 years and all of a sudden turn it over to whoever can get their annexation paperwork in first, that's a big problem. That's a big political media problem we just didn't want to have to deal with. And so what we did was the state came to us and we said, if you could create an organization that could help us so we could deal with one organization instead of all the cities and counties, so that we didn't have to deal with 6 different planning and zoning ordinances, so that we didn't have to figure out which inspectors were going to come if we build a building that crossed 2 lines on the county. We didn't want to have to worry about those things. And so the state came back and they They, in 2007, passed legislature which created MIDA, which is the Military Installation Development Authority. And basically what that is it's like a redevelopment authority. MIDA has all the powers of a city. So for our development, they have the power, the zoning powers, taxation powers, emergency services. They basically will fulfill the role of the city. And so we can deal directly with them, and then they deal with the board of MIDA is actually made up of the mayors and county people that are affected. So everybody has their input into the system, but it just really eliminated a lot of a nightmare potential for the base itself. And we're really grateful for that. The second thing they did was they came back and asked, how can we help you get started? Because as you can imagine, with no lease revenue coming in the first few years, we don't have any way to get our buildings going. We don't have any way to get the infrastructure in. And so they did two things. They provided about $19 million in grant money in 2008 through 2010. And that's money that the base has used to move the gate back from I-15 at the 650 North exit, try to relieve some of the traffic pressure in the mornings and evenings when the traffic backs up on the freeway. It also allowed us to build a couple of buildings. One was a security forces building and one was a new gatehouse. And so those were critical infrastructure pieces that we needed to do first before the revenue stream from the project would allow us to do that. The second thing that they did was they came in and have allowed us to have bonding authority to use 75% of the tax revenue for the first 25 years. And what that does for us is gives us a mechanism to help us build our buildings, to help us get the people out of those old buildings so the developer can demolish those. He can have that property to build new buildings on and help the development progress. The other thing that I want to point out is Davis and Weber counties and all the affected cities have been great. They have passed resolutions of support. They've helped support us with water, with sewer, with all the different things as we've gone through and tried to figure out how to get all our utility systems in place. They've been really good to work with, and I just want to throw kudos out to all of them. It's been really a pleasure to work with them. The project itself, Phase 1, as I mentioned before, is basically these areas around the gates. This is 650 North in Clearfield. This is 5600 in Roy. We're looking at about 180 acres there. It'll be about $500 million in development with 1.8 million square feet of space. So basically that's going to be commercial office space with some supporting retail. And there are a couple of hotels planned. Those are in the works, but there's no set timeline yet on those. What we're doing today, we had 3 initial projects that kicked off last year. The first one is the new gate. As I mentioned, the state provided funding to move that back away from the freeway to help some of the traffic congestion there, and that's in progress. We have a new security forces facility. That's our police station on base. Basically, in order to move the gate back, we were going to block the access where this police station is now. They wouldn't be able to get in and out. Well, that's just not going to work for them. So we built a new security forces building up interior to the base. It's in a much better location where they can get to all areas of the base quickly. And the other thing that we're working on now is a large 5-story building that you see from the freeway. And we're pretty excited about that. It's a beautiful building and it's pretty close to being completely dried in, so it's going to be neat. Here's some pictures of where we're currently at. As you can see, the security forces building is almost completely finished on the outside. They're doing the interior work now. It's scheduled to be completed in January. And then there'll be some interior, you got to move in the desks and the electronics and those kinds of things, and it'll be functional in the spring of next year.
Where's that building located?
It's right north of the base exchange. If you know where the 3-8 buildings are, it's just south of there. This is the building you see from the freeway. As of now, most of the windows are in, most of the siding is all on, and we're pretty excited about that. That building, again, is supposed to be done in February. Then there'll be about 2 months of outfitting before the ICBM support contractors move in and actually take ownership and occupancy. This is the gate. You probably can't see it because it's blocked by the trees as you go down the freeway, but the gatehouse is almost done now. What's going to happen? The gatehouse currently exists right here. It will move all the way back to Wardley, which will give about a third of a mile distance between the freeway and the gate. It will also increase the gate from 2 lanes in and out to 3 lanes in and out. So we're hoping that that will help with the traffic congestion in that area. So what's next for us? Basically, the rest of that on-base complex, if you look at this building here, The plan there is to put 4 buildings together in that complex, and we're working on getting the rest of those buildings, either commercial tenants that want to come in and be on base, have the ability to be on base, or enough revenue to build an Air Force building so that we can start the relocation of our personnel. This is the building that's under construction right now. These are the buildings that have yet to be constructed. They're to the south, and then that one's a little bit east. We're also looking at off-base buildings. The developer's obviously looking for tenants to fill some buildings off-base. If you've noticed, they've filled in where the missile park was. If you drove by and you used to see the jet on the stick, that's gone, and that's been filled in with about 15 to 20 feet of fill. And what that allows is a consistent grade over that area. We will move our fence line back when he has enough interest to build a building there, and that will actually become off-base property. So that will be open public access just like anywhere else you'd get off the freeway. In the Roy Gate area, up here, we're looking to move the gate away from the museum. What will happen is they'll come in and build a frontage road, and that will put the gate down here. If you're familiar where the Roy water tank is, it will be just south of that. And what that does is, if in the mornings we have truck traffic that backs up clear into the interchange area, we want to alleviate that traffic problem. So by moving this gate down to here, that gives us, again, about a mile that we can back up the trucks if we have to. It also separates the base traffic from the traffic that would be coming into the off-base area here that would be open development. And finally, we're looking for light industrial. We have an area that we have had a number of companies that want to come in and do high-tech manufacturing. I mean, the base with its F-22 and F-35 workloads are going to be doing a lot more composite work, a lot of high-tech composite materials that need to be used on those aircraft. And we would like the companies to come in and do the manufacturing in our area right next to the base. So again, our developers pursuing those entities and looking for a way to bring them here to Utah, to bring new jobs, to bring new industry and manufacturing. With that, again, we're excited about the project. We know the economy's been rough the last couple of years, which has slowed us down. And obviously the government and the DoD as a whole are making some changes which are sometimes concerning, but we're still very optimistic. We're still very excited about the project, the potential. We're excited about the buildings that are being constructed today, and our developers telling us that he's on the verge of constructing a new office building sometime early next year. So again, we're excited about that and look forward to it. And from a state perspective, we're excited about the jobs that will come in. We're excited about the tax revenue that comes to the state and repay that help that they've provided us up front. We're excited about that. So I love this picture. I'll tell you real briefly, this is 10,000 pounds of TNT going boom. I was there. I didn't take this picture, but you stand on a hillside and when the shock wave comes over you, it's amazing. So I always put this on there because I like it. Yeah. So, please.